Hey everybody, hope you guys can hear me. This is now my favorite part of the week. And always when we're doing this these days, everything begins to pump. So I hope everybody's well. Happy Sunday. And without any further ado, let's jump in. Where's my little thingy? I gotta have this to make things work. Now hang on, my screen needs to be tilted a touch. Because I was doing a different video yesterday. Then I'm kind of sort of in the center. I know some of you hate that. Okay, let's jump in. Hope everybody can hear me okay. Let's make sure. Boom. Good. As usual, math, money, freedom. And every week I take questions from Patreon and some very special YouTube subscribers. And we go into great details and try and address the issues that are on people's minds, so they can make good financial decisions. And this is edutainment, not financial advice. Quick reminder for tonight. Me and the boys, we are all George and Rob from Digital Asset News and myself. We are on George's channel tonight at 5:30 p.m., 7:30 Central, and 12:30 in the morning for those people in Europe. Sorry about that. But I hope you guys can make it. It was a good show last time. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in and go to the first question. And this one had me do some numbers. And it was a brilliant question. And I love these questions that really make me think. So if 1 million people wanted one whole Bitcoin today, you're saying they would not be able to buy because the supply is not there? That's from HighStates. So this was an interesting question. So the way things work with assets, you can always buy them. It's just a question of what price. But I decided to crunch some numbers and look at what would happen if 1 million people wanted to buy Bitcoin today. Now, what makes this question very, very interesting is there are 50 million millionaires. And per my math, no more than 350,000 individuals will ever own more than one whole Bitcoin, because it's already too decentralized, too distributed, and there's too many small players. So that's why I always say getting a whole coin puts you in very, very rarefied air from people on Earth. 8 billion people, only 350,000 will have a whole Bitcoin. So what happens if the 52 million millionaires on Earth, in fact, there's probably about 55 million millionaires on Earth because so many have been minted with the rise in Bitcoin over the last couple of days. What happens if 1 million of them, just 1/50th, wanted to get a whole Bitcoin? So these are my numbers. So the buyers would be 1 million buyers. Bitcoin price, 44,000. That was the price. I know it hit 45 today. But let's see if we can pump this, because every single video I go live, Bitcoin goes up. So we were at exactly 44,075. Oh my goodness. That is incredible, because I looked at this and I was like, darn, my price is too low, because we went down to 43,000. And look at that. Now we just shot up literally. I just put it down to everybody out there. The good juju you guys all bring. So thank you for that. So Bitcoin price, 44,000, which is bang on, $70 off. Cash inflow, that would mean 44 billion goes into the market. But there's a thing called a multiplier. And that is, you can't just inject extra capital in the market, but that capital has a multiplier that amplifies the impact of that money flowing in. So imagine you take the float of a stock and they have 1,000 shares. And only about 200 of those shares are freely floating. And if people want to buy them all at once, the price goes parabolic. And that is the multiplier of 25. So that would be the capital injection, would be the effective value of about 1.1 trillion. Now you divide that by the number of Bitcoin that are for sale on exchanges today, about 2 million coins. That would bring about an increase in Bitcoin price to 550,000 on top of the 44,000. And that's why I believe if 1 million people decided to buy one whole Bitcoin today, the Bitcoin price would shoot to $594,000. And that I will debate with anybody who thinks I'm full of fake news. This is real. And big thank you as well to Kathy Wood, because she started me thinking these directions when she said, well, if the S&P 500 allocated 1% to Bitcoin and then 10%, and the impact it would have. So great question. I love it. And that's the answer. So second question of the day. Now a lot of people were very worried about the regulation stuff. So if the bad amendment gets approved with the infrastructure package, that will severely hamper proof of stake in the US. How quickly would you move everything to Bitcoin? Brilliant question from DaBirds, and you always have really good questions and you share great information on Patreon, so big thank you for that as well. So this is interesting. So I came up with a couple of thoughts. First of all, let's break down what the regulatory impact is in my mind. So if it does happen, other regulations could follow, not only in the US, but also around the world. And this would spell doom for centralized cryptos. It would actually impact those with very skewed tokenomics. They'd be the prime targets for the regulators. And it could drive potential liquidations for these very risky centralized cryptos, where they line the pockets of the initial investors and founders. Now, timing is interesting because, first of all, if this happens, it'll take a long time for it to go into effect. And that would mean at least 6 months from now, which take us to, say, March 2022. And that mass liquidation could bring about the elimination of a Bitcoin bear market. So I'm going to zoom out because this is a lot to digest. This is the way my little brain thinks across all these dimensions. First of all, I see an elongated cycle. Second of all, there will come a time when people get rid of their ish coins and start pumping them into safer assets. And I also believe there could be a flight to safety out of the equity market once it gets so high into very, very safe assets like Bitcoin. So, and then finally, watch nodes, tokenomics, pocket lining, centralization, all those elements. And we are building a model right now to take those into account to identify the dogs and plow the proceeds into both Bitcoin and Ethereum. But related to that, this gets better. And this was what I worked on all day. So this is from Jeeves, Hypothetical Scenario. Strategies for crypto holdings if regulations come down hard. Guess what we did? So last night, this morning, we tried to map out regulatory risk versus upside in a matrix. And this looks like a little bit like a Canadian flag with the maple leaf or whatever it is. So excuse the graphic. But the point is, I'm trying to impart a ton of information in a very simple image, and hopefully some of you can wrap your heads around it. And this is far from perfect, but this is something we are working on to make it better. In fact, you can tell I worked on it because it looks so ugly. But anyway, the point is, I took the regulatory risk of the top cryptos, including those that had the worst regulatory exposure because of how they are skewed. So, for example, really bad tokenomics, very centralized, very, scammy-ish type tokens where they issued big ICOs and they kept a lot of money for themselves. And it's funny because some names pop up on here. So just to walk you through this graphic, the green line is kind of the upside potential for these tokens. Very rough, not a detailed price prediction, but just kind of my 10-point scale. So if you are at 10 points, you don't get a lot of upside, but you want to be small. You want to be close to the bullseye in the middle of the target. So 0 means tons of upside. So you got things like Bitcoin and Ethereum right there in the middle. You'll see the little green pieces right at the bullseye because I believe they have the most upside. Safety as well. Other tokens may have some upside, but they got a lot of risk. Now, the ones you have to avoid is the red line that is close to the outside of the ring. You've got things that showed up there like Basic Attention Token, Cosmos, Decentraland, EOS, Ethereum Classic. Is that on there? FOAM. Actually, no, Ethereum Classic is not there. Foam is on there. Hedera Hashgraph is on there. And a few other names. Stellar, Tezos, XRP. These, I believe, are all prime targets for regulators. So if you hold these and the regulation comes down hard, you don't want to be holding them. So that's kind of the model we're trying to build out. It is a work in progress, so please excuse the dust in the meantime. But that's what I think would happen. And the flight from these, tokens that are under regulatory scrutiny will be cashed out, price will tank, and money will flow into things like Bitcoin. So let's talk about EOS. Actually, I had a very good question regarding that. And I try and weave a tapestry where everything is interrelated. I've owned EOS for 4 years, quite a large position. Any thoughts on the project? From Charles A. So let's have a look. Coincidentally, this question came in, and guess who stars on this map? And I didn't realize this till after I got to his question, that EOS was actually one of these targets for the regulators. So let's jump and look at the chart and walk through this real quick. Obviously, EOS has been around for a long time, 5 years, I think, and it is the oldest of the so-called Ethereum killers. It's trying to set itself apart by focusing on enterprise users, and it is super centralized, and it hasn't made much of a dent in being an ETH killer or taking on the market share from ETH for nearly 4 years now. So we did have a bit of a spike up to about $12 a couple of months ago, and right now it's languishing again. So net, not financial advice. There are faster horses. So that's EOS, and don't like it as much. Rodney, thank you so much as well. Sea Shepherds, and we'll talk more about the contributions you guys all make and what they did this week. It's been phenomenal. So, can we get a price prediction for Bitcoin in 5 years? Everybody does 1 or 10-year predictions from my way. So I do annual predictions. Obviously, the further out you go, the deeper out you go out the time scale to 2030, the more hazy things are. But certain things you can predict pretty well when you look at things like money printing and inflation rates and growth rates. And this is the answer. So this is my 2026 prediction, because you did ask for out 5 years and not financial advice. But I believe the Bitcoin price prediction in 5 years will be at 473,850. And remember, I sandbag heavily. So that's only a 10x from where we are today. And that's over 5 years. So realistically, it could be $1 million, but 473,000 is, I believe, a number you could take to the bank. So that's the way I see it. And remember as well, the money printing has to continue. All roads lead to Bitcoin. So I love that question. And it's an easy one, not financial advice. Just to reiterate, how many Ethereum do we need to retire in Spain? So those emoticons came out bad. I copied and pasted from Radiant Reality. I love this too. And when I did my retire on Ethereum model, I looked at Portugal, not Spain. And even though some things have changed, this is basically a refresher for retire on Ethereum, how many you need. So according to my super conservative worst case scenario sandbag model for 2030, you would need 84 Ethereum to be able to pay yourself monthly benefits for 25 years of about $4,700 a month. That's US dollars, not euros or anything else, just to be clear. Then I broke in 2 other models. So the JM model is super conservative and sandbagged. Then I have the ETH dominance model of 33%. And then you would need about 46 Ethereum. And then you have the ETH 10% Bitcoin value 2030, which would be a price of Ethereum of about 55,000. You'd need 19 Ethereum. Now, I am much more leaning to that ETH 10% Bitcoin value now than ever before, because of the growth in Ethereum and the network and all the other bullish signs I see. The success of EIP 1559, Ethereum 2.0 coming in December now. So the answer for you, Mr. Reality, is somewhere between 19 and 84, but having 50 would be amazing. Now, I know it's hard to say, oh, 50 ETH, that'll cost me $150,000 today. But you know what? That will pay you $5,000 a month for 25 years from the year 2030 on. And if we go to 20 or 19 ETH, it's less than $60,000 to retire. So either way, they are the numbers. Again, not financial advice, but that is my retirement model. And check out the retire an ETH video as well. Up there in the corner, I'll stick it up later after I edit. So let's go to the next question. This is from Fearson. What's your take on crypto domains? Super interesting space. A lot of buzz around them and everything else. So this is kind of the quick and dirty summary. So while there's no doubt that the potential for Bitcoin and blockchain domains, etc., there are several hurdles that make it quite difficult for this to happen. So first of all, blockchain domains, for those who you don't know, these are decentralized domain names on a blockchain. You can buy them like an NFT. And typically your blockchain address, if you wanted to send somebody money, would look like all of those characters. But instead, you can have people send you Bitcoin or Ethereum or Zilliqa or whatever else by just going smile.zil. And that is your basically your checking account address to catch your crypto. Now that is kind of the main feature. Now, the other advantages of them is they do resolve things like IP addresses. The domain is fully controlled by the owner of the private key, i.e. the person that bought the NFT, the fungible token. And you can receive payments, which is super cool. But only certain wallets support them, so beware of that. A lot of people are still getting confused. Yeah, sometimes they buy a wallet and they think, oh, can I move, say, Solana to this wallet? Check in advance before you buy the wallet to make sure it is capable of supporting those types of cryptos. Now, a couple of things as well to note is these crypto domains are not indexable by Google. So if you're using them for advertising purposes, marketing purposes, they won't work. And it's worth getting your own, but as an investment, it's like the early days of the internet, it's not, where people could snap up names like, hope.com, like our little sponsor from last week, and everything else. In fact, it was Michael Saylor, coincidentally, who started snapping up domain names 25 years ago, and he made a fortune buying them all. So big thank you for the question. That is crypto domains and our take. So pros and cons of operating a Bitcoin node. A lot of techie questions today from Tyler D. Thank you for that. So real simply put, the pros is it's not hard to operate a node at all. It's not as energy intensive. If you believe in Bitcoin, having a node is the truest sense of owning Bitcoin. Now, the really cool stuff about it is operating your own node is also beneficial for security and privacy. And utilizing a Bitcoin node is the most secure way to transact in Bitcoin. So that is all the pros. So if you have an extra computer and you want to really be part of this whole rabbit hole that is Bitcoin, do it. Now the cons, however, you do need a dedicated machine. You need bandwidth. You need a lot of energy. Not that much, nothing like mining or anything else. But it does eat a lot of disk space and RAM. So you need that dedicated machine with a massive hard drive. And you have to manage it. And you have to check on it daily, sometimes every 6 hours. And check your local laws, because if you're in a jurisdiction where Bitcoin is illegal, you could get into trouble. So that's running a Bitcoin node. Yes, it's worth it. In fact, if people want to know more, Watson, who we work very closely with, he runs his own as well. So let's see. This next question. If an employer matches a 401k 7%, should I put a max into that or into top 3 cryptos? Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, from Chadwick P. Chadwick, thank you so much. Great question. And this is interesting. For those outside the US, a 401k is like a retirement plan where sometimes your employers match you. So if you put in 5%, they put in 5%. Sometimes it's 7%. This one looks more generous than the average company, but there's a limit as to how much you can put in every year. 6,000, 7,000, 12,000. I'm not sure of the exact numbers. I never really did it. And the reason I didn't do it is because a couple of things. One, I could make more money taking control of my own destiny. Number 2, I never believed in having money after I'm 65 because I knew if I was successful in life, I would be fine. And my whole philosophy, and I probably shouldn't share this for the younger people out there that should be saving, but again, I felt I could get much better returns than a mutual fund that was mandated by a company. And most companies in these pension plans mandate you only invest in certain assets, which I hated. 7% doesn't get me out of bed. Even if you do get that contribution from the employer, it was never exciting because I could just write cover calls on simple options and make a lot more money. And that's what I did. And then I also wanted the money sooner. I didn't want to wait till I'm 65 or incur a penalty for taking the money out. So that was my take. But I thought this was kind of interesting as well. This is a Deloitte survey, a little bit old, but the reasons employees participate in their workplace plan, and that is to take advantage of the company match. That's the number one reason why people do it. 31% said people desire to save for retirement. I thought that was kind of funny that saving for retirement is less of a reason than taking advantage of the company match, why people go into these 401k plans, pension plans. And in the US, of course, companies don't offer pensions like they do in other parts of the world. And 19% were auto-enrolled and never took action to opt out. So I thought that was kind of funny. But again, I like to control my own destiny. I think it's good for people to have some safe assets. If your company does do a match and it's $6,000 a year, just have it go out of your paycheck and stick it in there and save it for your loved ones or retirement or whatever else. But in answer to your question, Chadwick, you look at the returns of the mutual funds that your company offers. Can they do more than 50% per year? If so, think about it. Otherwise, I would get the money direct or save it, not get it deducted in a paycheck, and take control of your own destiny. or split the difference. Put 50 into the company plan, have them match it up to 7%, and then take the other 50% and buy some Bitcoin and Ethereum. So thank you for the question. Let me see. Next question is from Spirit G. You mentioned in a prior video you weren't a fan of commercial real estate REITs. What are your thoughts on residential REITs? So first of all, REITs are even worse than mutual funds. They kind of give it a lot of dividend back and everything else. But I pulled up, well, the reason I'm not a fan, when everybody asks, should I invest in commercial REITs right now? I think commercial REITs are heavily impacted by the C-19 situation right now. Office buildings are empty in major cities. I can't remember the recent numbers out of New York City, but 25% of office space is empty. And the amount of rent that they can get on those empty spaces is a fraction of what they used to be able to get. Same thing in San Francisco, same thing in Chicago. Everybody's working virtual. So offices are kind of a thing of the past. Therefore, commercial REITs, not a fan of. You're correct. Residential REITs, let me see. So I crunched some numbers. I pulled up the number one residential REIT ranked in the US. It's called ARR. This is the ticker symbol. And this is the 5-year chart. 2,000 days, it's down 57%. You do get a dividend of $1 a year per share. So that's fair enough. But just think about that. And this goes back to why I don't invest in dividend stocks. The performance sucks. This is the best residential REIT you can get in the US. And 5-year chart is just, it's heartbreaking. Anyway, if you want dividends, remember you get taxed on your dividend income. I'm much more about capital appreciation and investing in disruptive stocks, and that's why I'd never touch such a thing. So there's your answer. I looked at the top 5 residential REITs. This is number 1, and it sucks. So who knows? Maybe they'll turn around this year. But again, if they give all the money away and dividends, they're never going to grow anyway. So that's my take. So a big thank you for all the contributions. Kiwi Robin, thank you so much. We had so much contributions this week. It's just been amazing. So we have 4 new little animals that we donated to and sponsor and adopt. And it depends on which organization you go to. So we have Prince the elephant. He was bred at Portland Zoo and then joined a circus, which is a very sad career direction for Prince. Anyway, the elephants were, chained up, confined, cruelly controlled, etc. Now he has a beautiful new home and a beautiful new pool and is very happy. We have Owen the bobcat. Somebody asked for a bobcat, so was kept illegally in a small dirty cage in the back of someone's home and now has a spacious forested habitat. And he likes to chase pine cones, nothing else. So I think he's a vegan bobcat. Mojo is Muntjac, also is a Muntjac, which is some type of exotic goat or something that's kept as an illegal pet. And now he has a huge grassy sanctuary to live in every day. And Georgette, the emu, ran loose in California foothills and was picked up by animal services and now lives in a large pasture very close to Mojo. So that is it. I want to thank you guys. You guys are amazing. And House, you are so kind. So one thing as well, a quick reminder, everybody, scammers are everywhere. Again, the Telegram scammers, there's 8 of them imitating me. I'm not even on Telegram. There are scammers on Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter. Just remember, everybody, I keep kicking this to death, but it's so important. There's no such thing as a crypto giveaway. Please get that into your heads. No such thing as a free lunch, free money, nothing. And there are tons of impersonators on social media. So if somebody messages you about anything, about crypto, they are a thief. Very simple. Ignore, block, report. Okay? And then text messages. We cover this. The new Coinbase text scam brings you to a fake website. I don't even answer my phone anymore. I don't look at text messages. I have somebody reading my email. So just everybody, be careful of all that. Scams are everywhere. So with that, I'm going to open this up to Q&A and hope everybody's having a happy Sunday. And thank you for joining me here. And wow, market went up and down. We're back under 44,000 for Bitcoin. We got to turn this around. So everybody feel the good energy and hopefully it'll pop back. So let me see if we have any quick questions. And bear with me 1 second. Oh, wow, a lot. So Craig M., thank you so much. When hyper Bitcoinization happens, does it mean a major change to life as we know it regarding the international geopolitical balance of power. I think it'll be fine. Things like fiat currency and the way central banks operate and everything will continue as is. I don't think it'll be a big change. However, the problem is there's only so much Bitcoin to go around. Those that have it early will become the new wealthy. I saw a very funny meme, Craig, I think it was on Twitter or something, and it was a poor guy in a shack, but he owned Bitcoin down the road from a guy in a huge mansion with a little glass and a Rolls Royce and everything else. And then fast forward 20 years, it's the complete opposite. The guy in the Rolls Royce is now in a shack and the Bitcoin guy is living in a castle. So those types of changes are probably going to come. I think it's definitely going to rattle things like the IMF, the influence of central banks over people. I think everything is going to go peer-to-peer. Everybody will start trading amongst themselves and offering services. If you need somebody to fix your kitchen sink, odds are you might be able to barter with them for crypto, and everything could be, who knows where it's going to go. But I think power will weaken. I think everything will move towards blockchain, including things like voting and the influence of politicians. And we're already seeing a lot of that happen right now. It's funny how the Republicans have really stepped up. And I didn't expect that coming because the Republicans in the US were very anti-crypto under the previous administration. Now it's gone full circle. They're the ones fighting for freedom because they know that quashing crypto and blockchain technologies in the United States will destroy innovation and the US will miss out on a key part of the future. So hope that can answer your question. But let me think more about that, Craig, about how Bitcoinization will actually impact the world. Ivor Wagon, thank you so much. With new regulations, if worse comes to worse, do you have an exit strategy for some of the altcoins, or shall we hold and convert more to Bitcoin and ETH? So again, as I say, identify those that have the most regulatory scrutiny coming for them. I'm working on a detailed chart. I'll share the chart I built today in Patreon, and I'll be enhancing it with a whole bunch of other data factors. But I think ETH might get a little bit of scrutiny, but I think it's safe because their ICO is in the year 2014, and also the statute of limitations, and also it's very heavily decentralized, not completely decentralized, but heavily compared to other names. And Bitcoin is completely safe. So we'll see. But there will be an exit plan for many altcoins, especially as they get toppy. First step is always take your money off the table. And it's a much bigger screen. Black Crypto Walker. What price do you stop adding Sol, Link, ETH, Matic this cycle? I stopped already. So now I just reassess and wait for big dips to grab stuff. So that's kind of where I am right now. And thoughts on XMR-Zcash? Would you buy Chili's? I got into a very small piece of Chili's, and XMR is Monero. I wouldn't invest. Sometimes I get my tickers confused. I'm always sure it's Monero, but I don't believe Monero will ever attract institutional money. Therefore, it's not an interesting investment for me. Charles Kincannon, thank you so much. 5-year prediction for those who are older. Yes. Was that a question regarding a specific crypto? But the 5-year prediction I did share was for Bitcoin, just under 500,000 in the year 2026. And again, if you've seen any of my price prediction videos for any of my cryptos, I always go out at least 5 years, sometimes longer. Edwin Park, how much money printing could cause a hyperinflation point of no return? 50% more, 100% more? So the way I see it is, and I tried to map this out in a chart, it's not ready for prime time yet, but I believe there will be at least 50% added to like the Fed balance sheet and money printing every 4 years for the foreseeable future. So I tried to map that out over the next 10 years and try to figure out exactly how much potential inflation there could be. Because if you do add 50% more money, print 50% more money onto the money supply, you are ultimately going to have, a third of debasement to that actual currency. But basically, my estimate based on what they've done already, adding 40% to the money supply in 18 months, they have to continue. I don't necessarily think it's going to accelerate, but I do believe every every 4 years, 2.5 to 4 years, there will be at least a 50% money supply increase conservatively. Now, if things like C19 continue to hold the economies back, they have to keep stimulating the economy, which means keep printing money. And then it just gets out of control. And then we will have hyperinflation. So if we're doing continually 50%, 40% money supply expansion every year, then it'll be completely hyperinflation. Congrats on whole coiner status, Rainer. Well done. By the way, in Patreon today, we had 7 whole coiners. We had 11 yesterday. That's 18, even at these high prices. So good job, everybody. And thanks for donating. Serendipity, GA, Reno Kloss, Mark Hyde, Max Goodman, Kiwi Robin, Jeeves. Hey, Jeeves, got your question today. House of Woodlays, you're so kind. Bombiggy, Kiwi Robin, Toby, and Tony. By the way, some of the key people keep donating over and over again, so you guys are just too good and too kind. Bombiggy, besides my all kinds Sol, Cardano, Link, Uni, I have 2 Bitcoin, 11 ETH. Make sure you keep that stuff locked down and be very careful with your identity. I hope the name cannot be traced. I'll keep buying. Hope that's enough for retirement. I'm 43. 211. Oh yeah, you're in very, very, very good shape. So if you have a 10-year horizon, if you go out till 2030, I firmly believe 1 Bitcoin or 30 ETH or half a Bitcoin, 15 ETH is enough to get you there. So you are in a great position, and congratulations on your very young age and being in and so well established so young. Rodney Tudor, how does a return compare for Tesla and or Bitcoin? I did a detailed analysis of I've got my bear expected and bull case scenario for Tesla and my bear expected and bull case scenario for Bitcoin going out 10 years. Some of that has actually changed because I didn't expect there to be such an adoption of FSD, which is $10,000 of pure margin. So I'm going to do an updated Tesla model. But in all cases, Bitcoin beat Tesla, with the exception of the bear case for Bitcoin versus the bull case for Tesla. Then Tesla wins. But I still believe Tesla is an extremely good holding for everybody to have. That's kind of a little bit of a safety hedge. We are up against over 44,000 again for Bitcoin. By the way, what you're seeing here, and this is so important, Bitcoin today went down to 43,131. So if anybody, it was at 45,000 during the night. That is let me see, that's a very big $2,000 swing. So again, keep those limit orders, let it come to you, and take advantage of this volatility. It's crazy. So, let me see. Rodney. So that was that. Sorry. Eurabio. Some friends are thinking to buy AMC because Reddit said they can go to 10K a share. No. How do you dissuade them? So you tell them to take out a piece of paper. You look at the number of outstanding shares. You multiply it by 10,000. Then you get that big number, and that is a massive, massive market capitalization number. And then you compare it to Apple and the biggest companies in the world and say, do you think a shitty movie theater, sorry for saying that word, a bad movie theater, a vector for spreading diseases and pandemics is really going to go to $10,000 a share? I mean, come on. It's like people tell me in the chats here, oh, XRP is going to $1,000. Go look at the tokenomics, multiply 1,000 by the amount of tokens that are there, 100 billion. It's just, that's what you do. Get a little piece of paper and a pencil and just have them put all the zeros, and they'd be convinced that they are absolutely crazy. So, Zabjida, James, thoughts on Elrond team tokenomics? Also, they have 3,200 nodes for full decentralization. Yeah, Elrond is one of those ones that it was a kind of next on our list to investigate, but it ran so fast. It's like, it's no longer a bargain. And we like to bottom fish. We like to buy cheap and sell high when we can. So, there are a lot of good things from Elrond for sure. We haven't done a deep dive. Tokenomics is okay, and they are fully decentralized. But remember, decentralization has many, many different meanings. It doesn't necessarily mean as well just a whole bunch of nodes, because there are projects out there that have a lot of nodes, but aren't necessarily decentralized when you look at how and who controls it. So Hedera Hashgraph is a good example of that too. So thank you for the question. Whiskey, you're cautious on ICOs. Is DOT safe? Polkadot is sort of safe for now. I think they're going to go more after the players that aren't true infrastructure players. So that one didn't hit my alarm list, and I was relieved because I have Polkadot and extremely bullish on the project. So thank you, Whiskey. Terry Buckner. Question, if all of your old coins, 6 ETH included, equals 1 Bitcoin, would you make that trade? Yeah, I think so. I might wait a little bit, but it depends, especially on your old coins. But the Bitcoin remains the safest, the most indestructible asset out there. So monitor the regulation carefully. And I don't know what jurisdiction you're in, probably the US. And if you do have income where you can dollar cost average and cherry pick stuff, but just locking away that whole coin is a great goal for everybody to have. And it's a great security blanket for you and your family. So Maharoni, thanks for thoughts on the market top date. Yeah, I think we're definitely going out to 2022. I don't think we're going to hit the top before Christmas. And I think it'll be gradual. And I think certain assets will continue to go on, and then certain things will tank. Now, last time we had a top of market, Bitcoin tanked a couple of weeks before the altcoins did. This time, I think it could be different. I do see just droves and droves of money coming into Bitcoin. It could go parabolic if big money starts arriving fast, like treasuries start coming back now that it's out of the doldrums, etc. But we'll see. But definitely, I'm now thinking, I got this 14th of March date in my head. Middle of March is kind of where I have the line in the sand right now where we could go, but it could be January, February. And again, we're not going to have that 85% retracement like we had in the past. So Maharoni, hope that helps. Doc intern, medical professional, hopefully. Your thoughts on putting up to 20% of one's 401k into MicroStrategy for the next 5 to 10 years, consider selling and diversifying. Yeah, if that's the only option you have and that's the only on-ramp to Bitcoin you have, 20% is an okay allocation. Like if I look at my equity portfolio, I won't say what I have in MicroStrategy, but it's actually closer to 30%. I've got a huge position in MicroStrategy, all in options too. But I've been hyper bullish and I've been in it since 290. So that's my take. I can't give you financial advice, but MicroStrategy, there is a little bit of potential regulatory risk for MicroStrategy. If they are considered a de facto ETF, they could get into hot water, but I don't think that day is going to come. So thank you for donating as well. Max. Hope I got that right. Long-term holder, Annie Azizkhani, PKG Man, Christy Leva, and Ted Meister. Thank you so much. And let me see. Oh, we better hold up the questions because I can't burn all your Sunday. The Bitcoin volatility is going insane right now. So, Maharoni, what percentage of your project would you start pulling profits? So the first rule of thumb is, imagine you buy 100 tokens for $10. And that token goes to $20. Immediately sell 10% of them. Take your money off the table. And that way, let the rest ride. And then I have different models depending on the actual token of when to exit based on a whole bunch of stuff, including some TA, market valuations, price predictions. So you can just protect yourself that way. But especially if you're in risky items and get a chance to take your money off the table, just do it. There's some people I know that have some cryptos, they got in at a cent and now it's at 40 cents. So they 40x their money. And that should be immediately take half off the table. And if you still feel conviction for the token, let the rest ride. But take your money off the table as soon as you can, always. Mike G, thank you. What is your take on Canada's rampant money printing, seeing as they are printing much more than other countries? I know, it's so funny. There's a lot of countries that are, some of them print money secretly. Some of them, it's hard to track exactly how much money printing is happening. But it's just a joke at this stage, Mike. It's like, well, I'm a government. Why not press the button? They don't even print dollars anymore. They just press the button. Here's another trillion. Here's another trillion. Here's another trillion. I think it's just going crazy. And I know Canada has a very thick social blanket and they need to keep the people happy. And the price of oil has come back, which is helping, hopefully, the Canadian economy right now. But we'll see. I don't know. I know that the Canadian dollar has been weak. I thought it was mostly because of oil, but people think the US is printing a lot of money, but European Central Bank is printing more. What I might do is actually have a look at some of the global money printing across many countries and see what's going on. So Frodo, thoughts on moving Roth IRA money to service choice by Kingdom Trust to purchase Bitcoin? Yeah, so if you need to keep it in that tax-free shelter and it's already in there, yeah, that's no problem. But just try pick one that has the most security, least amount of fees and money fees. Because if you are buying an asset and the transfer cost and the trading cost is 1 or 2%, and then your monthly management fees are 30 or 40 bucks, that just eats away at your asset. Sometimes it's better just buy direct and store it yourself on a key, lock it away in a safe, than have somebody eating away at your funds. Because I'm actually going to work on a model of calculating exactly how much an IRA can effectively cost you over time. So if you buy an asset for $40,000 and it goes to $1 million, and you look at the money that you're spending, that they're eating away from your asset over time, it's quite horrific. So Voodoo Ray, have you ever researched Morpheus Network? I had a brief look at it a while ago, but no, not a deep dive. And let me have a very brief look here right now. Hold on a second. I've got this cheat sheet of stuff. It didn't even make the cheat sheet. Hang on a second. Morpheus. Give me 1 second. Because you were very... Just looking at some of my telltale indicators real quick. Let's make a quick assessment. Fully liquidated. Chart looks okay. Tokenomics look okay. It's very small. That's the only ding I'd give it. But yeah, we'll have a quick look. Obviously, if you're bringing it to my attention, you must think there's something very positive about it. But it looks okay from the outside looking in right now. The only thing I'd say is it's very, very small. So it would normally not get my attention at its current ranking. So thank you for that. IRS Yed. Can you share your portfolio of coins and share percentage ownership? I do, but only on Patreon, not in public. Hiroshi, but I can tell you, Yed, I have very heavy concentration of Bitcoin first, Ethereum second. And imagine my portfolio is $100 worth of stuff. Only 3% is in altcoins. But my cost basis for things like Bitcoin and Ethereum is very low because I got in early. So I hope that explains. Like if I just got into the game this year, I bought some Cardano last year at the beginning and most of it early this year. And then I started adding on altcoins as I saw them see fit. But again, my altcoin portfolio is very, very small compared to my Bitcoin and Ethereum bag. Hiroshi, can you explain why is Tesla a Bitcoin hedge? Well, it's not a Bitcoin hedge, but if you never want to have all your eggs in one basket. So for example, if there's always a 1% chance, everybody, that Bitcoin could go to zero, and then at least you still have Tesla. So it's the same thing the way I take some of my equity portfolios, a very small amount. I think it's about 3% I have in things like Illumina, Teladoc, Invitae, and CRISPR, because I believe next year is going to be huge for those guys. So I even hedge my different categories. It's always good to have a couple of select winners and a couple of select places. JV Fender. Sell some Bitcoin during this possible super cycle to pay off student loans, or keep making monthly payments. If you have a student loan, particularly in the US, I think there's some very attractive offers now and very low interest rates. If you can get a low fixed interest rate and it's not a big impact on your cost of living, standard of living, then continue to just not get rid of the pristine asset. That would be my take. I believe in like mortgages, loans, student loans at low fixed rates, if you can keep it that way, and you can make the payment, just keep on doing it. I wouldn't get rid of Bitcoin to buy anything. So for example, if I'm buying a car, I would never ever sell Bitcoin to buy a car. I'd borrow as much as I can. So Mark Gettner, please do a piece on all the ways to keep your account safe. I did. Check out my 20-point plan on keeping your crypto safe. It's a video I did about 3 weeks ago. Everything you need to know is in there. Even if you only do 16 of those steps, your stuff is locked down. In fact, I have my stuff so locked down that I can only go to one computer. And even to do that, I need to authenticate myself a few ways. So, Mark, check out that video as well. And it's a 20-point plan. Real easy to follow. Dan K, is Cardano relatively safe from the regulation bill too? Not as safe as Ethereum, but it's okay. I think what they will do is go after the prime suspects first, because it takes a long time to enforce these types of cases too. And there is also the chain of thought that it may not make sense to penalize them, but I think they'll go after the very egregious ones first. Things like XRP and the usual suspects. So thank you for donating as well. Heir to the Ron, Mike Choi, Erica Olsen, Christy Talbert. I mean, you guys are all very, very kind, and we are very, very grateful. So I hope that is a wrap. A couple more questions. Thank you for all the super chats, but please stop now. I know it's a bad thing to say because we turn everything, but it's just too much. So, do I plan on selling any Bitcoin during this run? Nope. Maharoni, no. Don't plan on it. I thought about start putting Bitcoin aside to sell, but that's why I do kind of the altcoin investing right now, because I'll be selling those. Unless, of course, I believe they have long-term plays. Maybe Solana does. So, Joe Cartapia, hope I got that right. Thinking of selling my Yearn Finance, move it all to Bitcoin. Well, the price is very similar. And that is one that could have some regulatory scrutiny. So I was looking at that, and people have been asking me to invest in it for a long time. And I never did. But the price is high. It almost matches the Bitcoin price. So it's definitely a safer play for sure. Without the regulatory risk. Deep Balboa. I have 20 altcoins: Bitcoin, ETH, SOL, Aave, Elrond, Link, DOT, BNB, but avoiding ones where the circulating supply is greater than 1 billion, like Idiomatic. Thoughts on 1 billion coins? I think I personally don't like them. I like when most of the circulating supply is nearly at the max supply. I like coins that are as close to deflationary as possible. And when I see tokens that have 1 billion or 100 billion, I just think it's just stupid. That's absolutely crazy. So I don't like them. So I do like some of your choices. I did have Binance. I got into Binance at $200 and $400, and I sold at $350 because I was worried about that. Elrond I don't have, but I've got the rest of what you have there. But yeah, we are working on a kind of a matrix model that looks at all of this stuff. I want to try turn token analysis into an automated machine that just feeds off of data and says good or bad by looking at the data without having to do deep dives. And then when the model says, "Ooh, this all looks good from a ratio perspective," then do a deep dive. So that's the point, because I get so many questions like, what do you think of Telcoin and all these different types of things? And some of them are bad. I know I have a lot of Harmony One fans, but the tokenomics there is bad too. Logan, not successful like most people here, but have 1.5 Bitcoin. You are very successful if you have 1.5 Bitcoin. And again, keep that very, very safe. And 2 ETH. You are doing very well. Logan, you should have extreme confidence in your bag, but just please, please, please make sure you lock your security down. So well done. You are one of very few people. Again, there's probably only 250,000 people will ever have more than 1.5 Bitcoin. So, Tarpatio, is Solana under the risk of regulatory scrutiny? No, not right now. And also, Solana is extremely well backed by the smartest money in the world, like people like Andreessen and others. And those guys have so much power, they can pick up the phone and they can call politicians and make things happen. I'm sure many of you heard about Janet Yellen. She received $7 million from Citibank and others. $7 million in speaking fees. So I'm glad that came to light. I hope it's a true story and not fake news. But you got to understand why she's so strongly opposed to crypto. because she's paid by the banks. Now she's lost all credibility. Anyway, so yeah, Solana is not a concern. That being said, always be careful. Always have your tap dancing shoes on and be ready to move out of something if something does happen. And stay tuned here because I will let you guys know if I see anything. Ariane G, how long do you think the price of Bitcoin could go during the next bear? How low do you think the price of Bitcoin could go during the next bear market? So my math is real simple. If we hit 100K, we'll retrace to 50K. Worst case scenario, maybe 60K. And if we go to 200K, we'll retrace to about 100K. So that's the way I see it right now. And that has not changed. We'll see. And there's so much bullish signs right now as well. So much more money coming in and adoption. And it just keeps leaving the exchanges. I mean, this thing's just going to, year-end targets. I'm getting more bullish by the day. So Tim Kutch, hey James, not financial advice, but when looking into investment in the stock market, would you recommend an index like the SPY or buy individual stocks? Always surgically pick the winners. Remember, S&P 500, it is 493 average or bad stocks and 7 good ones. And the 7 good ones make up, I think, 10/16 of all the value of the S&P 500. So think about that. I mean, it's don't when you have a bag like the S&P, it's more than half garbage. So always do your research, pick out the winning companies for the future, pick out the companies that are going to change the world over the next 10 years, and just look at what happened over the last 20 years. Look at what the big winners have done, the Amazons, the Netflix, the Googles, and try to identify who the next ones are. It's pretty obvious who some of them are anyway. So that's what I would do, Tim. Good question. No laughing matter. Where does Solana fit in your regulation metrics chart? It doesn't yet, but it does. It's not a high risk one. If I thought there was any type of risk, it would have been on there with a high score, and it's not. And in fact, I was very happy when I went through that most of any holdings that I did have of crypto were all under a score of about 2 on that chart. But that chart's a work in progress. It's not fully baked yet, but expect updates all the time. And hopefully we'll be able to do the top 100 cryptos and stick them in that chart too. Thanks for your donations as well. Toby, Compliance Joes, Kiwi Robin, and Tony again. Kiwi Robin, you were too generous, and I think that's a double. Cool, everybody. If there's no more questions, that's going to be a wrap, but there are. Okay, Black Crypto Walker. How do you know when to stop DCAing into project for price? Is Audius Theta still a buy? Theta, I think, is run too fast. Audius, I don't know. I haven't looked at it. But I will check that out. I know Theta is something we're going to try to do hopefully this week and dig into. But when I stop DCAing, it really it's a function of where my target is versus my cost basis versus the price now. So I'll give you an example. I would not buy, personally, Bitcoin over 42K because my cost basis is very low and I see it going to 100. So I look for things that will 3x, 3 to 5x, and they're my targets. So buying Bitcoin under 33K, backing up the truck. 42K, above that, no. So that's kind of my structure and my discipline because I base it on my future projections. So I hope that type of guide helps. And that's why I'm very bullish on things like Solana, because I think they could become 20% of the ETH market cap over time. And that would be huge. They just project out what it's worth. Live, love, life, fit. Do you still hold Polygon, and do you plan on selling anytime soon? Nope, not until it reaches my target. And my target's in my retire on crypto portfolio. So I was happy to say that I think middle of last week I said it's only a matter of time before Cardano and Polygon pump, and they did. So I was happy to see that happen. In fact, let's just check in on Polygon right now and see where it is at. So I haven't looked at it in a few hours. Yeah, a little down 7%. Yeah, it took a big hit. But still up a lot over the last couple of days. Mike F. Who is the we? Love to know. So there's a couple of people behind the scenes. I have people that help with graphics. I have people that help with inboxes. I have people that help with content creation. And I have some amazing people within the Patreon community that do such incredible work. And everybody's just a really, really good giving team. So there's probably 7 people that are very dedicated to helping this out. And it used to just be me in the beginning, so it's growing. So but most people do things as well, just to help out. So thank you, Mike. Just Forfeit. Is AMP worth investing in? That is another one we're kind of looking at. People have been asking me to look at Elrond and AMP Theta for the longest time, but we just haven't had time to look into that. But let me check the AMP chart. Now, for me, if something has really exploded and run, I tend not to go after it. I don't chase. And why is AM? Let me see. I want to just check in on AMP because I put it on my list of things to look at. And it is on the list. And in fact, it is also... That's not even on the cheat sheet, so I'm looking at all my different sources here. 1 year. Nice chart. And yeah, that looks like it could be, but it looks like it could only do a 2x from where it is right now. So just Forfeit. I don't know. I think there's definitely much better places to put your money. Thank you for your donation as well, James Dundon. You are very kind, and hopefully that's a wrap. So, by the way, big thank you to K8, who is behind the scenes here on all these messages and super chats, because I could no longer keep up. There's just too many of them. So now we have somebody managing. Oh, and there are more super chats. Okay, everybody in the super chats, you guys are too kind. So, True Crypto, are you still bullish on Algorand? Algorand has become questionable. There's a couple of things there. I love Algorand for a whole bunch of reasons. I love their partnerships. I love their technology and everything else. But I'm a little bit concerned about some of the tokenomics. I still hold it, but I still think there are faster horses. So if I had a choice of investing in Algorand or Aave or Solana, I'd pick Aave or Solana any day of the week over Algorand. So Caligula, go relax and recharge before DCA. Stay well. Thank you. Caligula, you are too kind. Hope you and Monica are doing well. And John Johnson, how safe is holding Bitcoin in my wallet for the short term? I'd like to quickly convert to USDC, BEP20 at the peak of the cycle. I think that means break-even point 20K. Yeah, you're completely fine keeping it in your wallet, and just need to know exactly where you want to put it, when you want to put it, and if that is your plan to exit. Have an exit plan built. For example, if Bitcoin hits 100,000, maybe get rid of half. 160, get rid of the next 30%. 190, get rid of the next 20% or something like that. But just have that already in your head and make sure you can orchestrate, because this space moves very fast. And if we do get this blow off top, it can shoot up as fast as it can shoot down again. So I personally plan on holding, and there could be a very different situation this time around as well. Good times. I own 0.7 Bitcoin right now, and I could buy 0.3 on Monday or buy all now. DCA or wait for it dip to 30K. So right now what I've been seeing over these weekend cycles is, Mondays have sometimes been weak and Sundays have been strong. So the whole way it's moving is really different. Sundays used to be weak and Mondays used to be strong, and now it's kind of flipped and reversed. So it's hard to say. Let me have a very quick look for you and see if I can see anything in the tea leaves as to where it's going. Right now it's just any... Give me 1 second. Any dip down is just being bought up. We're about to break through 44K again. And I did say that once we get through, if we can sustainably be above 45K, we could go straight to 50K. That's kind of what I see happening right now. But if you do have an allocation and you see a dip today, like we saw earlier, 43, get half your allocation of 43, and hopefully Monday will suck, and then you can get in more to 42K. But remember, this thing is wicking pretty violently. So you might even get a 42K fill. So we'll see. But don't get boxed out. Good times. Thank you for your question. And hopefully, I do have to go prepare for my DCA soon. So hopefully there's no more super chats. No more. Awesome. So big thank you, everybody. Cheers, Kiwi Robin, and for all the great work you do within the Patreon community, keeping us all safe. And if Mike is out there, and K8, and Caligula, and House, and everybody else, love you all. Happy Sunday. Oh my God, I've been talking for over an hour. See you guys later. I'll be back on at 5:30 Pacific on George from Cryptos R Us channel. Bye.